Today, we're diving into two incredibly powerful strategies for self-preservation: no contact and low contact. These are essential tools, especially when you're dealing with manipulative or narcissistic personalities. So let's start with the big question, right? How do you actually protect yourself when you're in a relationship that's built on manipulation? It doesn't matter if it's family, work, or romance. That feeling of being trapped in a cycle is just exhausting, and figuring out how to get out can feel completely overwhelming. But there are proven ways. The answer, it turns out, really lies in taking back control of your interactions. So today, we're going to break down two main paths you can take: the absolute boundary of no contact and the more strategic filter of low contact. Just understanding which one fits your specific situation is a huge first step toward getting your peace back. And let's be really clear here. This is not some easy black and white choice. It's a tough decision, and it involves this delicate balance between protecting yourself, handling practical obligations, and dealing with a whole lot of emotional weight. So if you're wrestling with this, believe me, you are not alone. Okay, let's start with the first and honestly the most definitive strategy: no contact. I want you to think of this as building a complete, total barrier for your own emotional and psychological safety. So what exactly is no contact? Well, it's pretty much what it sounds like: a conscious decision to cut off all lines of communication. The goal here is really profound. It's to break that confusing cycle of intermittent reinforcement, that hot and cold behavior that keeps you off balance. And it denies the manipulator the attention they desperately feed on. It's not just about not talking. It's about completely refusing to play their game anymore. Putting no contact into practice takes some very concrete steps. You're going to block their number, their email, and all their social media. You actively start avoiding places where you know you might run into them. And this one is crucial. You refuse to listen to any messages they try to send through friends or family, people they often use as messengers, sometimes called flying monkeys. So when is this the right path for you? No contact is really, really recommended when a relationship is purely abusive and you don't have binding ties like kids. It's absolutely essential in situations where your psychological or even physical safety is at high risk, especially if that person has already shown that they're capable of dangerous or stalking behaviors. Let's think about the story of Anna for a second. After years in a relationship just filled with gaslighting, she finally realized that any contact, no matter how small, just reactivated the whole abusive dynamic. Going full no contact was, frankly, terrifying for her at first. But over time, she found it was the only way she could truly rebuild her own sense of self. But what if a complete and total break just isn't possible? Well, that brings us to our second path: low contact. This one doesn't function like a barrier, but more like a strategic filter. Low contact is the strategy you use when you absolutely must interact with the person. The goal is to seriously reduce your exposure to their abuse by limiting all your communication to the bare essentials. Every single interaction becomes a planned, almost administrative-style transaction, completely stripped of emotion to give the manipulator zero entry points to exploit. This approach is so necessary in situations like co-parenting, where you have to communicate about the kids. It also applies to those unavoidable work or family obligations, or when a clean break might just be impractical, or could even provoke a dangerous reaction. It's also a really common step people take while they're planning a full exit. Now, the key to making low contact actually work is all in the communication style. You have to keep it brief, stick only to the necessary facts, and maintain this unemotional, almost robotic tone. You don't defend yourself, you don't justify your actions, and you definitely don't explain. This is often called the gray rock method. You basically make yourself as uninteresting as a plain old gray rock. Take Joel, for example. He's co-parenting with a manipulative ex-partner. So instead of getting sucked into endless arguments, his messages are purely logistical. The drop-off will be at 6 p.m. at the school. That's it. No emotion, no wiggle room for debate. It's a masterclass in shutting down manipulation before it even starts. So now you have these two pretty distinct strategies. The big question is, how do you choose? Let's put them side by side and really see which path might be the right one for you. All right, looking at them here, the differences become crystal clear. With no contact, the whole objective is total separation. Communication level, 0. It's ideal for when you need complete freedom. The main challenge is just enforcing it, especially at the beginning. Now, with low contact, the goal is managed interaction. Communication is minimal, factual, for when you have ties you can't break. The challenge there is maintaining those boundaries day in and day out over the long term. And it is so important to remember that this decision you make today isn't necessarily permanent. Lots of people start out with low contact because they have to, and then they transition to full no contact later. Maybe when the kids are grown or when they change jobs. Your path can and probably will evolve as your circumstances change. So once you've set your boundary, whether it's no contact or low contact, you have to be prepared for the pushback. It's predictable, and it's basically the final stage of manipulation you're going to need to resist. And that pushback, it actually has a name. It's called hoovering. Yep, just like the vacuum cleaner, because it's their attempt to suck you right back in. Hoovering refers to any sudden effort by the narcissist to re-engage you, and they often use tactics that prey on your emotions. Things like sudden promises, dramatic declarations, or totally fake emergencies. Hoovering follows a really predictable playbook. You might get those out-of-the-blue apologies or promises that they'll change. You might hear about some manufactured crisis that somehow only you can solve. You could have accidental run-ins at your favorite coffee shop, or they'll start sending messages through your mutual friends. Just recognizing these for the tactics they are is your absolute best defense. And if you remember nothing else, remember this. The objective of hoovering is never, ever about genuine reconciliation. It is always 100% of the time about reactivating their control over you. They're testing your new boundaries to see if they can pull you back into that old toxic dynamic. So let's end with this really powerful idea. Choosing no contact or low contact is not an act of aggression. It's not a punishment. It is a fundamental act of self-preservation. It is a tool for survival that gives you the space you need to heal. It's about building a life that's finally free from manipulation. So the only question left is, what are you going to build with that freedom?